Key point 1. Internal work can unlock our strength. There are days when we stare at our workload and don't know where to start. Every task seems insignificant. We wish we could quit everything, travel to an uninhabited island, and have no obligations. Yet, it's impossible. We must carry on. But how? Where can we find the strength to keep going? We shouldn't be so hard on ourselves. Life consists of ebbs and flows, times when we feel blue and times when we feel on top of the world. The problem is that society underestimates the former and only praises the latter, pushing for never-ending achievements. As a result, we find ourselves on a hamster wheel, running without pause. There's no time for reflection or, heaven forbid, having doubts. However, it shouldn't be this way. Like symbols on a car dashboard, each emotional state conveys important information. Indeed, we may not value feelings of disorientation or apathy, yet they appear for a reason. They can serve as a wake-up call that something has gone wrong, or that we've started a novel life phase and need to find new meanings. At the same time, the most common cause is that we should reboot, summoning strength for future triumphs. All significant achievements stem from extensive inner work. Trees illustrate this idea superbly. Their crowns are exquisite masterpieces featuring thousands of leaves in unique patterns. But they couldn't exist without roots, which, according to Colorado State University, cover an area 2 to 4 times bigger than the crown's diameter. Networks of roots are like our inner work, less noticeable but indispensable. We will dedicate the following minutes to our inner world, filling ourselves with inspiration, thought-provoking ideas, and practices that assist us in continuing the good that we do. A long-awaited breath of fresh air is coming. Key point 2. How to navigate through the chaos. We live in a rapidly changing world with countless factors beyond our control. While some pleasantly surprise us, others can take the wind right out of our sails. So to find balance in this chaotic ocean, we should create islands of stability. How can we do it? Waiting for muses to come and help us is a romantic option, but establishing a daily routine would be much more reliable. American writer John Steinbeck had a special ritual for getting himself in the right mood, sharpening 12 pencils. Similarly, we can prepare ourselves for the day with a cup of coffee, a Work With Me video on YouTube, or a cleanup of our desks. Starting requires the most effort. After that, we merely stick to the plan. Here, another tool comes into play: to-do lists. They clear our minds and channel our energy on doing, not remembering or deciding what to do. If we have plenty of free time, these lists help us spend it wisely. If we get buried under tasks, a plan ensures we start with our priorities. Pressure often stems from thoughts about yesterday and tomorrow, not today. Moreover, a list keeps us focused on things we should do today, encouraging us to live here and now. As ruminating about the past or worrying about the future slowly eats away at our strength, this aspect of planning is priceless. Besides, there are different types of lists we can benefit from. For instance, when feeling stuck, Austin Kleon divides a page into 2 columns: Thanks For and Help Me, creating what he calls a paper prayer. In the first column, he writes what he's grateful for, and the second contains puzzles he can't solve alone. Additionally, we may test questions essential for us on a pros and cons list. Don't brush off any issue as too silly or serious for the list. Charles Darwin used this method to decide whether he should tie the knot. At the same time, we must remember that we are the masters of these lists, not vice versa. The day has been well spent even if we have done little of what we planned. Often, the most unproductive time goes into the most creative projects. Did you know? Leonardo da Vinci started his day by jotting down things he intended to learn. Key point 3: The dark side of result driven work. When Kleon's son, Jules, was 2, he relished each minute of drawing. Markers or paint, paper or canvas, the tools didn't matter. Moreover, he disregarded the results. Jules was equally satisfied when his parents hung his masterpiece in the living room or hid it in the desk drawer. Being completely engaged in the process, he ignored all other factors. When we focus on how others perceive our work, we shift our attention from what we like. We gradually become hostages of results as we grow older. They loom over us, reminding us that everything must be perfect, or prompting us to imagine future recognition. In both cases, they pressure us to block our workflow. The higher the bar we set for ourselves, the more we activate the self-defense mechanism, procrastination. Its logic is simple. If we don't start doing something, we won't be disappointed with the results, right? Unfortunately, we make matters worse this way. An addiction to results may influence us in another way. Outcomes, such as raises, likes, and sales, encourage us to continue working in a specific direction, even if it doesn't align with our preferences. Thus, when work becomes unbearable, we may ask ourselves, did I veer off my course? At the same time, results might spoil even our favorite activities. In this case, we should refresh our perspectives and look at our jobs as games. These are some ways we can do it. Performing tasks as badly as we can. For this technique, we should choose an assignment we can complete twice before the deadline. The first time, we do our best to gain the most illogical, incomprehensible, and dullest final version. Let's not restrain ourselves. Afterward, it would be easier to do it correctly. By setting the bar lower, we counter our perfectionism. Creating something and tossing it in the bin. To disconnect from the results, doing the task for practice's sake can help. It's not a waste of time. We're training our skills and igniting the enjoyment of our work. In the case of creative activity, we will also refine our inner world. Working with unfamiliar tools. New toys make our inner children happy. Practicing an art, no matter how well or badly, is a way to make your soul grow, for heaven's sake. Kurt Vonnegut.
You've hit a daily streak by completing 3 key points. Great job!
Key point 4: Ways to protect our gifts. Although the labels we use to define ourselves can assist in self-understanding, sometimes they lock us in particular roles. For instance, considering ourselves serious people, we wouldn't participate in hilarious contests and games. Or believing our strength is logic, not creativity, we might avoid choosing artistic tasks. Yet, we're always bigger than the roles we select for ourselves. Similarly, we may undermine our inner balance by reducing our personality to just a few skills. Suppose we've worked with numbers for decades, so when some lines of text pop up in our minds, we will likely neglect them as unimportant, thinking, songwriting? What a ridiculous idea! That's not my thing. Yet if we had listened to ourselves, our hobby would have fueled us with enough energy to help us complete necessary tasks much faster. We should all have activities we do only for ourselves. At the same time, external pressures may deprive a hobby of its ability to fulfill us. Monetization is one of them. What usually happens when we bring mouth-watering desserts for a party? Our friends tell us we should sell sweets through our Instagram account. But heeding their advice, we might lose the joy baking gave us. That's why Kleon believes we shouldn't commercialize all our talents. Indeed, some hobbies that reflect our passions can turn into professions. Yet even in these cases, we should realize that making enjoyable things our source of income can gradually change our attitude toward them. Transforming our tasks from what we like into something we must do sets a new level of expectations and requires additional willpower. We may experience this change as losing our gifts. Making presents is a great way to deal with this unsettling feeling. Kleon always draws something for his children when he feels exhausted and disabled with his work. That's because if there's magic in our world, it certainly appears when we make gifts. Unsurprisingly, many authors created their greatest stories, like Winnie the Pooh and Pippi Longstocking, initially exclusively for their children. Making gifts puts us in touch with our gifts. Austin Kleon. Did you know? If it weren't for the advice of writer Clive Staples Lewis, only Tolkien's children would have heard the stories about Bilbo Baggins. Key point 5. Curiosity and attentiveness fuel creativity. The media constantly bombards us with images of fantastic destinations and luxurious lifestyles. Compared to them, our daily routine seems so ordinary, which makes us doubt our ability to create something unique without leaving our homes. But we shouldn't worry. Inspiration for a new perspective is much closer than we think. Extraordinary works rely on unconventional thinking rather than the number of tourist visas and passports. The first way to gain new experiences is to change how we perceive the world. The fable from the animated movie Soul illustrates this point perfectly. A young fish approached an older one and asked, "Could you tell me where the ocean is? I heard it's something amazing." "But you're already in the ocean," replied the old fish. Surprised, the young fish said, "This? You must be kidding. It's just water, not the ocean." The same happens in reality. Often, it's not the events that matter most, but how we interpret them. For example, we may consider our work tasks boring water, or if we believe our actions sustain the company's development, a unique ocean. Paying attention to our surroundings is a great way to start looking at our lives from a different angle. Instead of rushing to our offices, we can open our eyes and ears to the subtle miracles around us, like plants growing through cracks in the pavement, or songs with soothing lyrics. Our world is an infinite source of inspiration for those who are attentive. The second way to deepen our perception of the world is by being open to new opinions. Although diversity is a popular conception nowadays, we rarely encounter it firsthand. For instance, thanks to algorithms that cater to our preferences, social media primarily serves us posts from like-minded people. Our friends and colleagues often have similar backgrounds to ours. So, will we genuinely reevaluate our beliefs when faced with differing opinions we agree with? Society often mislabels our shift in perspectives as unreliability or insecurity, causing us to cling to the comfort of our old views. Unfortunately, this decision may block our creativity. To spark it, we should take a leaf from researchers who constantly investigate the world and question what others consider common sense. They acknowledge their lack of understanding, using curiosity as a motivator, and so should we. Key point 6. Tips for planning our days effectively. To overcome mental blocks and keep going even if work seems beyond our strength, we should realize that when we work may be as essential as how we work. Thus, we should pay more attention to organizing our days. Let's consider the impact of one widespread habit: checking our smartphones right after waking up. Indeed, the fear of missing out, FOMO, drives us to reach for our devices as fast as possible. Yet, when we do that, we waste one of the most productive periods of the day. The time just after waking up is a rare occasion when our minds are clear. No bombardment of news or posts has clouded our judgment with emotions. So, it's a golden opportunity to approach tasks requiring our total concentration. And that's what director Francis Ford Coppola used to do. He always worked his fingers to the bone early in the mornings before calls distracted him. Salvador Dali found another way to use a dreamlike state to his advantage. He sat in a chair with a spoon in his hand. When he fell asleep, the noise of the spoon's fall awoke him, and he started to draw. Maybe it's one of the secrets behind his surreal paintings. Another essential aspect of caring for our inner world is dedicating time to only artistic activities. They will help us disconnect from the world and boost our creativity. The story of Le Corbusier, a pioneer of modern architecture, exemplifies this idea. As painting was his lifelong passion, he dedicated the first half of the day to it and protected this time rigorously. Once, when reporters knocked at his door in the morning, he told them that Le Corbusier wasn't at home. Declining others' offers may be uncomfortable, yet it's the only way to say yes to essential tasks. The ability to say no is vital for establishing an equilibrium between our duties and our needs. To simplify this process, we can create templates that always come up with appropriate words while declining invitations sent via email. Although FOMO will torture us for some time, making us question our decisions, we can turn it into the joy of missing out. JOMO. It means we're glad to skip some exciting activities to select only the best options. Key point 7. First aid kit for our workflow. Creative blocks can discourage us, so we should arm ourselves with practices that are the most effective remedies against them. Kleon recommends at least 3 activities that may help us keep going. Walking. From ancient times to nowadays, famous people have taken advantage of movement. For example, what was Charles Dickens's source of strength? The answer is 20-mile strolls around London. Walks are so powerful for many reasons, and making us use all our senses is one of the most important, especially nowadays. We spend an enormous amount of time living in a digital world, but no video of a park will substitute for the fresh air, scents, and bird songs that recharge our batteries in the blink of an eye. Creative tidying. Rather than just putting things in the right places, this cleanup is a search for ideas. There are different ways to go about it. Ruffling through our old notes, we might stumble upon hidden treasures. Reading phrases from books before putting them on the shelf might lead to sudden insights. Decluttering our phones can also be a gold mine. Downloads may contain many beneficial things we've forgotten, like inspiring images, helpful templates, and hilarious videos. True success should be a bonus from doing what we enjoy, not the ultimate aim. Observing nature. The first land plants appeared about 50 million years ago, so they are more experienced in how to keep going than we are. Looking at them, we can analyze ourselves. For instance, no flower or tree rushes its blooming or harvest time. They embrace their inner attributes and live up to them. We also never call plants winners or losers depending on how early they bloom, right? That's because we know each of them follows their unique path. So why do we apply these labels to ourselves and choose a short-term perspective that states success now or never? It has many shortcomings. For example, in our pursuit of immediate prosperity, we may lose sight of what matters to us from a long-term perspective, the passions that will fuel us for our whole lives. Take the case of American fashion photographer Bill Cunningham. Well into his 80s, he couldn't put his camera aside, cycling around the city to get great shots. Conclusion. Although struggling to keep up is an unpleasant thing, instead of rushing to eliminate it, we should analyze its causes. Raising awareness of what we do helps us understand how to move forward and what we have missed. The story of art critic Peter Cloutier exemplifies this idea. He paid more attention to captions that explained works of art than the masterpieces themselves, yet he noticed this only when he started to meditate. Inspired by his insight, he's launched a series of events in some galleries and museums where people observed one painting for a whole hour. Soon, other cultural institutions followed this lead, as looking closely at exhibits enabled people to make discoveries. Additionally, we can deepen our self awareness by regularly reflecting on our lives and keeping a diary. This way, we can discover when we began struggling with our work and what our thoughts were at that time. It can make coping with feeling stuck much easier. A diary is also a great tool to keep track of all spheres of our lives and balance them. The bottom line is that feeling lost is better than it seems. It encourages us to start an internal dialogue and clarify our goals and needs. Instead of achieving something, we ask ourselves whether we really want it. If we ask ourselves these questions, something magnificent may come into our lives. Try this. Observe your day to notice the habits that set you up for work. Apply them when your motivation to continue decreases. Use an analog alarm clock to avoid checking your smartphone when you first wake up. Learn more about mindfulness right here in the Headway app and increase